Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Now that my two obligatory informative videos are done for the day, and yes, I know one of them wasn't informative, it's time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. Apparently, Marc Lobliner has done a video where he's like, oh, I'm sticking with everything that I said about this WFN scandal, but here's kind of my real involvement, and he actually is backtracking. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, work on scaling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. And this is interesting because the things he said in this video, you have to wonder, is he ever going to apologize to Johnny Bravo and myself for saying that we lied and made up certain things? That we had presented forged documents or fake documents? Because they weren't. People are saying, what? People need to go back and watch this video that he did very, very closely. He made it yesterday. It's 18 minutes long. The problem with it is that if you were to listen closely to what he says, a lot of it is actually an admission, or at least not denying, number one, that he did receive products from them. Number two, that he submitted a W-9. And that's where it gets tricky, because he's saying in his video, you know, I would never be a sponsored athlete from this company. I was never enumerated from it. And here's what he said about the W-9. He says, look, with the W-9, it could be a forgery, the one that's been circulating around. It could be a forgery, but it looks legitimate. It looks like mine. It could be real. It could be real, but they never cut me a check, so it doesn't matter. And he says, I do not recall if I filled one out for them or not. I honestly do not recall. Anyone who's familiar with the way things work in government, particularly different aspects of government, when you're brought before trial, see, that's a textbook line. When you are an employee of government agencies or an employee of the government or a politician, when you get asked an uncomfortable question that you don't want to commit perjury over, what is it that you say? I do not recall. I honestly do not recall. See, that's a legal defense in court. His line is beautiful. It means he was given advice from a lawyer before he made this video. I do not recall. It's a beautiful thing. Why? Because it's an honest way before a court to not admit to something that may be true, might be an uncomfortable truth, an illegal truth, so that you don't incriminate yourself while not committing perjury, because that is a defense against perjury. If you really and truly do not recall a specific event or a specific detail, that's legitimate in court. That's a legitimate answer. I do not recall. So he was coached up by a lawyer on that. He doesn't recall if he filled out a W-9 for them or not. It could be a forgery. It could be real. He doesn't recall if he did it or not. So in other words, he may have done so. He doesn't remember at this time. Which would stand in court if asked that same question. He could give that answer, and that would be a legal answer in which he couldn't be guilty of perjury for. Beautiful. Beautiful, Mark. That's real smart. Now, here's the other thing that's interesting. You know, when they're talking about all of this stuff, because he said, hey, all those packages are fake. I didn't have any packages sent to me or anything else. But then here's the thing that he admits. He says, all of us, we were duped by this guy. In fact, I talked to one of his doctors on the phone. He gave me a prescription for blood work, which I didn't need because I already do my blood work. So he wrote me a script to go get my blood work done. One of Richard's doctors on the phone. And we were all duped because, yeah, sure, some of the stuff looked illegal, but he seemed to have an FDA-compliant lawyer. He seemed to have everything legitimate. Everything looked legitimate. I didn't know that he was just, you know, handing out prescriptions like a Pez dispenser. I didn't know that. Yet here's the thing. There was evidence of all these packages being shipped. Now, Mark has said anyone who knows anything knows that Spotify won't deliver if the zip code is wrong. That's not true. Stuff gets shipped out from everyone all the time. In fact, we've all had Amazon packages, everything else with the wrong zip code, or one letter wrong somewhere, and as long as they can piece together and realize what address it is, your stuff still gets delivered on time. Even if a couple letters get flipped in a zip code, you almost always still get your packages on time because systems can catch that. They'll look at it and say, oh, this is whatever 3700 Garden Grove Lane. I don't know if that's a real address. I just made that up. In whatever Kentucky, but the zip code is off. But that is a real address, and the zip code is just one digit different. This is just a mix-up. The system usually catches it, and they get packages to you on time. But that's his defense that this is clearly fake, even though there are real tracking numbers and real tracking for that stuff. But because, you know, the zip code is wrong there, 2 of the digits are flipped from his real one, can't be real. They wouldn't have shipped. The companies do that all the time. So his defense has been that all this time. Yet when he talks about this stuff, he goes, well, I was going to use their stuff, and I'd said in a video I was going to use their stuff till I started reading and listening to some of the reviews and everything, and I realized it wasn't that good. This was just underground lab stuff. So, you know, I chose not to use their stuff. Chose not to use their stuff. Well, that's where it gets more interesting, because Marc goes on at several points in the video to remind people that he isn't a fake natty. He doesn't claim to be natural. He says that he's a man on TRT who uses doctor-prescribed medications. And then he says, so if I had used anything from this guy, well, he didn't even say that. He didn't even say if I'd used anything from this guy. So he basically says, so, you know, had I used him, I wouldn't be lying, because I was convinced, even though he had a fake identity and he had stole a doctor's identity and wasn't a real doctor, I had been convinced he was a doctor, and I thought I was getting a legitimate prescribed product. Well, here's the thing. You have to wonder, if he never received any packages from them, what was this legitimate product that he thought he was being prescribed that he's talking about? Why does he need to go on and make the clause that I'm a guy on TRT who gets legally prescribed substances, you know, which is fair. That's a fair statement. That might very well be true. Marc could be honest about that. He might very well get everything he uses on prescription. It's possible. It's not outside the realm of believability, because I've seen doctors who prescribe for certain longevity clinics and stuff really high amounts. I know guys who get real high amounts that are not really TRT. Heavy doses of test growth hormone, stuff like that. It's done. Nandrolone. Plenty of guys get that. I personally know a few. So that's possible. But why does he need to say, so I had been convinced by him that he was a doctor, so I thought he was prescribing me legitimate stuff? Well, what stuff did he prescribe you then? What stuff were you sent? If all of this tracking is fake and all of this is a lie, even though they're tracking numbers, their tracking numbers is which packages shipped. If those are all fake also and we're lying, then what are you talking about? What did he prescribe? What did he tell you you were getting? So that's back to the point of that is essentially an admission of accepting the stuff, thinking it was legal, thinking he was getting giant piles of growth hormone and Anavar and everything else legally, and testosterone legally. But he says he didn't use it. But he doesn't say he didn't receive any. Never says in this video. He doesn't go back to that point. He completely ignores all of that and goes back to the point of why would it matter? Because I thought I was getting it legally. Well, here's the problem with that. Because you denied all of it. That's the problem. You know what? I don't care, and I don't think anyone else cares that if a person is using legal gear prescribed by a doctor that happens to be a large amount, and they're not lying about it, they're not claiming to be a natty, okay, fine, no one cares. So why did you need to lie about it? Why did you need to say that everyone who was saying you got packages and tracking numbers, they were all fake and lies and everything else, but there were packing slips and tracking numbers that this company did have on file for you? And so why then did you need to cover all of that up? Why did you do that? And here's the thing. Now he doesn't want to go back and say that. He's essentially admitting he may have accepted stuff from them but chose not to use it because of what he had heard. But he can't actually say that because he's accused all of us of lying and said all that stuff wasn't real, it's fake. They didn't send me any of that stuff. But yet here he is suggesting that they may have. See, he can't do that now because then everyone's going to know. Well, he lied and called other people liars when they were telling the truth. Just like with the W-9 thing. The W-9 that I got was apparently a forgery. It's a fake. But now he's saying it might be real. He doesn't recall if he signed one or not. So essentially, Marc is saying, I didn't make it up. I'm not lying. You know what? Same thing with the packing stuff. Now he doesn't want to admit he's lying, but he doesn't want to come out and say, oh, I may have not told the truth. Blaha isn't lying. You know, he sure accuses me of lying about a lot of things. I wonder what else Marc and some of his comrades have accused me of lying about. That maybe I didn't. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? And you know, here's the thing. I got to ask, hey Marc, are we going to get an apology? I doubt it. You're not going to apologize that you actually were lying. We were telling the truth when you said that we were liars and forging documents and everything else. All of us who were spreading this stuff around, that we were the liars. We're not going to get an apology from that. I know, because you always want to make me out to be a liar. You know why? Because guys like me tell the truth about this industry, and if you can spread a campaign of hate, and your industry can pay to make sure a campaign of hate is spread to make them seem like a liar, it can bury the lies that they uncover, that people like me uncover about your snake oil con artist industry that is built on nothing but lies and bullshit and garbage. There's not a shred of truth anywhere in the supplement game. Nothing. None. The whole thing is built on lies. And that's kind of the only defense you guys have, is to tear down everyone who attacks it as being the liar. Interesting how that works. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.